नाम श्रेष्ठं मनुमपि शचीपुत्रमत्र स्वरूपम् रूपं तस्याग्रजमुरुपुरीं मातुरीं कोष्ठवाटीं राधाकुन्दं गिरिवरमहो राधिका माधवाशां प्राप्तो यस्य प्रथितकृपया श्रीगुरुं नतोऽस्मि। निन्दन्तं पुग्लकोत्करेण विकसत् निपप्रसूना छविं प्रोद्वीकृत्य भुजद्वयं हरिहरि द्योतैर्वदन्तं मुहुः नृत्यन्तम् अगलदश्रुनिर्झरचयैः सिञ्चन्तम् उर्वीतलम् गायन्तं निजपार्षदैः परिवृतं तं गौरचन्द्रं स्तुमः। आदिभिः परिपालितः प्रबलितः सानन्दमालोकितः प्रत्याशं सुफलं सुमनः फलोदयविधौ सामोदमामुदितः वृन्दारण्यभुवि प्रकाशमधुरं सर्वातिशायि श्रिया राधा माधवयोः प्रमोदयतु माम् उल्लासकल्पद्रुमः। Oh, I just realized that my timing is off here. Well, let's get started, and I'll have to stop probably before finishing. I'll have to break this up into 2 parts. So, 7.5. Oh, Jaya Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Echai Gosaira Kori Charana Vandan Jahaite Vignana Abhista Puram. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, 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 Right. So, 7.5, Priti Sandarbha. We've been talking about the qualifications for seeing Krishna. So now these are things to remember. We're getting to the point of understanding a bit what he's driving at. Avatar, Krishna is present in the devotees at all times. So there's a parampara of, that is the spirit, you could say. And that spirit in particular exists within us as the spirit of the avatar generation. And Rupa and Sanatan, they're a privileged part of that generation. So this is a part of our lore. This is a part of our lore. Right, so here we are. In the 7th, we're learning about what it means to see God. And now, so we'll start to understand. We'll have to start to translate this language. To see God means to see the devotees. Thakura Vaishnava Pada, Avanira Sampada, Suno Bhai, Hoya Ekamon, Asraya Loya Baje, Krishna Tare Nahi Tyaje, Arshav More Akaron. Narottam Das Thakur says, the glory of this world is the Vaishnava. Listen, my friends, give me your full attention. Anyone who takes shelter of the Vaishnavas, he will see Krishna. There's no doubt about it. Asraya loya bhaje Krishna tare nahi tyaje. Krishna will never leave that person. Krishna will never abandon the one who takes shelter of Vaishnava Sangha. So the Vaishnava is the next best thing. If you want to look at it that way. But if you're clear-sighted, then you see that it is that very thing. And then you're seeing Krishna. Then you're seeing Krishna. You're seeing Krishna in the Vaishnava. You're seeing Krishna in the bhaktas. You're seeing Krishna at work, in your own life as a sadhaka. So let's just go on. I don't want to spin off too much into other subjects at this point. Maybe I'll come back to it later. So te cha aswachachittaha vivida. So the reason I'm bringing it up here is because now we're going to have to apply this also. We have to think on two different levels now. We have to think on the level of what's going on, idealistically speaking, with God above there, the avatar generation and all the events of Dwarka and Vrindavan and so on. Just leave that aside. We're coming more down to earth. We have the Vaishnavas who are here with us. Right? They are also a kind of avatar generation. They are present with us. They carry within them the flame of the avatar generation. By their connection to it. So tej aswachachita. So those people, so our capacity to see these people, our capacity to recognize these people, our capacity to be inspired by these people, a capacity by these to be attracted by these people, to be attracted, the power of attraction. The principal quality that we ascribe to Krishna is his power of attraction. This is the whole basic principle of Vaishnavism, that God represents the power of attraction. In whatever way he may be for the entire universe, he is the center to which all attention ultimately is drawn. And depending on our view, if we catch yasmin vigyate sarvam evam gyatam bhavati, that if we grab him, that we will know all things adequately. I'm saying adequately just to be not to overstate the case. But to understand your position in relation to God. That's the fundamental requirement. All right, so to see God, so they're going to see God, you're going to see God way there in the altar. Yes, you're going to see God on the altar. And I say it, don't go there. Don't go there. Of course you go there. There's no going to Madhyama stage without going through Pratama stage, without going through the beginner stage. And what makes you think that the beginner stage that you ever stop? Just because you pass the beginner stage doesn't mean you give it up. You live with that. That becomes a part of what it means to be in the Madhyama stage, is that you were going through the Pratama stage. What does it mean to be an Uttama? Well, the Uttama, you're already all the way there. You're formed in it, so you see Krishna everywhere. You're seeing Krishna's work. You're free. You're free from the confusion that is caused by thinking that you are the doer or that anybody else is the doer. You don't care anymore. Yeah? So the world will go to hell. Why? Because I'm not fighting a war? We have to stand up to evil. Of course we have to stand up to evil. There's no doubt about it. But believe me, we'll spend all our time standing up to evil in the end, and we won't be understanding what is the good. And that's what we're interested in principally, is what is the good. That is the whole point of all this stuff, basically, has been to say that if your mind is good, if you're a good person, if you're swachha and you get the mercy of God, then you can see him. But there are certain problems involved, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit. So now these problems, what I'm trying to say is that don't just stick it out there in the avatar generation. It has to be practical. It has to be something that you apply to your own understanding. So your own understanding is, how do you deal with Vaishnavas? What is your attitude towards the Vaishnava? Most people approach the Vaishnava as an object of suspicion, and perhaps they're right to do so. But let's see what Jiva Goswami has to say about it in Krishna Loka, first of all, in Bhagavatam. What does the Bhagavatam have to say about this subject? Then we'll extrapolate from it later. So te sata cha aswacha chitta dvividha. So there are two kinds of people whose minds are not pure and who therefore somehow or another are unable to activate the God revelation power. This is a big deal now. Because what I'm talking about in terms of being going from the pratamic stage, right? The what we're calling kanishta stage usually. From going from kanishta to madhyama, what is the big step that has to be taken? Right? One has to start thinking of God in purely theoretical terms. Right? One has to start thinking of God in practical terms. One has to start seeing how God is present in the world. Because to see God everywhere, that's the basic teaching of all the Vedanta. Now we may talk about Vedanta, right? We may talk about Vedanta that it has this Dvaita aspect and Advaita aspect. So we've accepted it already now. That's what we've already been going through all these chapters. Right? We're accepting the Dvaita position. We're not denying it. The acquisitions of the Dvaita position, we accept that those are necessary and those are real. As long as one accepts the point of distinction, that there is still a distinction between the two. There is one that is the Shaktiman and one is the Shakti. And never the twain shall meet, at least not in the way that you think. But the idea of an underlying conscious reality to which we all belong and that we are all of one essence with. There is nothing wrong with that idea. It's at the basis. It's the basis of our theism. That's the basis of our theism, because out of that it grows. That in order to fulfill that Sat Chit Ananda, that God's purpose in creating, God's purpose in expanding his energies, is in order to realize more fully his Sat Chit Ananda reality, his being, his consciousness, his bliss. So what better way to increase his Sat Chit Ananda than by having unlimited reflections of consciousness come into being? All who from a different perspective will experience his glory in different ways. Not just foolish, tiny ways, but in ways that are reflective of the extent of the glory of God. How is that glory of God being realized? So, if you see God, then you manifest God. If you see God, you reflect God. You don't just see God. What is that? What's the point of just seeing God? Seeing God is transformative. Seeing God is all transformative. That's why Guru Tattva is so important in Vaishnavism. Guru Tattva means that you are transformed by seeing the Guru. You are transformed by hearing the Guru. That's what it means. Sakshat Hari Tvena Samasta Shasair Uktas Tata Bhavyata Eva Sadvi Kintu Prabharya Kriya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Sri Charanaravinda. What a wonderful verse by Vishwanath Chakravarti. So, Bhagavad Bahirmukh. So there's two kinds of people who have impure consciousness. So who are they? They are the Bhagavad Bahirmukha. And we have then the Bhagavad Vidveshinascha, two kinds. Some are Bahirmukha. Well, they're all Bahirmukha. Bahirmukha means they're turned away. But there can be Bahirmukha here, just means disinterested. So the Bahirmukhas, they might be, let's say, Balisha, what we would call Balisha. They're people who you could talk to, that maybe you can reach, that you can communicate with. And then the other ones are, they're just plain, ordinary Bhagavad Vidveshi. They just don't like God. Very difficult to communicate with those people. So generally speaking, you stay away from them, right? We don't go looking for trouble. But we should be aware of what they think. It's not wrong to be aware of what those people think. But you have to be careful. You have to, when you when you approach difficult matters of a philosophical nature from the point of view of a faithful Vaishnava, what's your position, right? Well, we are always, we know that there's a distinction between the intellect and the heart. And we know that we are basically Vaishnavas, which means that we are basically heart people. That means that we're going to go after what our, what we have learned sentimentally as a human being, what leads to a greater humanism, what leads to a greater love, what leads to a greater understanding of what love is. That prema is the prayojan, so we should understand what prema means, we should understand what priti means. So we're trying to understand these are the topics that we are particularly interested in. What is love? So now as Vaishnava, so we can take it two ways. There's a purely humanistic way that we can take it, or we can take it as a believing Vaishnava. So we're taking it as a believing Vaishnava, but we accommodate the humanistic point of view. That is to say, that we say God encompasses all things. So if God encompasses all things, therefore he encompasses the human experience also. Well, not only does he encompass the human experience, but he is the image by which the human experience is meant to be modeled when he appears in his incarnation, either through his direct example or through his experience. He's a model in some way, the ideal. So it's a big topic. We have a very big topic of God with Krishna, Mahaprabhu, the Vaishnavas, history. How does it all piece together in order to give one a picture whereby the ideal is preserved? This is very easy to go into history. And you read into it what you will. If you're Bahirmukha, that means that you're looking at it, you're dissecting it, you're looking at it as a purely human phenomenon. Right? That's what it means to be Bahirmukha. So you look at Gaudiya Vaishnavism, you look at the history and you make deductions based on knowledge in anthropology and in sociology and psychology and so on. So you're constantly engaged in a process of dissection, looking at it as something external to oneself. And even when examining oneself, one is dissecting oneself as though it were a third object. Not as it's directly experienced, but a dissection of experience. Okay, so Bhagavad Bahirmukha and Bhagavad Vidveshinascha. So Tad Bahirmukha Hadvihivida. So now the Bahirmukhas, they are divided into two further categories. And what are they? Say Labdet Tad Darshanepi Vishayadi Abhinivesha Vantas Tad Avagataras Cha. Again. Labdhe tad darshanepi vishayadi abhiniveshavantaha tad avagyatarascha. So Bahimukhas, we're talking about the avatar generation, so people are seeing. The question is, how can people see Krishna and not be transformed? Krishna is Vastu, right? He's a real thing. Krishna is the real thing. He is Bhagavan. Those who were lucky, those who had they saw him, they recognized him. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya recognized him. Prakashananda Saraswati recognized him. Rupa Sanatan recognized him. Advaita Acharya recognized him. Nityananda recognized him. Swarup Damodar recognized him. They recognized him. These were not ordinary people who recognized him. They recognized him. They influenced the whole world, of a whole culture for generations. Because they recognized him. So to recognize him, this is something special. And so to not recognize him is also something special. It has to be explained. Why do some people see him and other ones don't? Well, so we've been talking, swachachitta, they have to have some purity of mind. Right? If they're not pure of mind, so what's causing the problem? What's causing the problem? Well, the problem is that they are committing offenses. Right? So what is that? So tad bahirmukha dvividha labdhe tad darshani. So there's some who even after seeing Krishna, even after seeing pure devotee, and they remain attached to sense objects. They remain attached to their materialistic way of life. They see, but not well enough in order to totally transform their existence. So that's the point. To see God is a transformative experience. If you see something, so even if it's just a spark, right? That suddenly you see something, yes, this is a reality. And when you see that this is reality, that this person is presenting to me reality. That everybody else is talking to me and they're all presenting to me different kinds of reality. Everybody is reflecting their vision of reality back to me. But here, this is a reality I can find some meaning in. This is a reality that attracts me. This is the power of Krishna's attraction. It attracts me. So if it doesn't attract you, so you saw Krishna and then you went back, like I did my previous life. So all of this applies not just to seeing Krishna, this applies to not only to seeing devotees, it applies to chanting the holy name. You chanted the holy name. So you go back to your material preoccupations. What kind of chanting is that? You were with God and then you decided to go and be with not God for a while. How did that happen? And you make some excuses that the not God is not really not God. But yeah, it's hard to be with God all the time, just like it's hard to be with a partner all the time. So you do get the chance to experience God from more than one kind of aspect. You get to study God as well as to experience God. You get both aspects. But your study of God is mediated through an experience, and it's mediated through history. All right, let's move on here. So the first one is, even after seeing a devotee, one still has attachment to material things. That's one kind of problem of a bahirmukha. And another problem is that tad avagyatarasya. Those are more than just bahirmukhas. These are more like Bhagavad Vidveshinas. At any rate, the second kind is avagyatara. So it's saying people who speak ill of that person. This often happens. You hear this about devotees also. There's people who like to speak ill of devotees. If they can find a devotee of whom one can speak ill, they love to jump on the bandwagon of speaking ill of those who are placed high on a pedestal by their bhaktas, to show the human frailties of the devotee. It's a great pastime. At any rate, so you have avagyatara. So there are two kinds of people who are bahirmukha. Some of them, they just, because they're indifferent, so they just go back to their old ways. And the other ones, they're a little bit more blaming God for their suffering. Somehow or another, God is to blame. They're more direct in their disliking of God. So, yatha tad avatara samaye sadharana deva manushyadaya yathacha krishnam martyam upashritya ityadi durvachaso mahendradaya. So he's given us a story also. Okay, so during the Avatar Samaya, so during the time of the Avatar, so let's go back to the time of the Avatar, how people were treating Krishna. So tad Avatar Samaye Sadharana Deva Manushyadaya, ordinary people, the way they looked at him. He was a Kshatriya, he was a king, he was a powerful man. He was he had a great heroism in battle. All these things. He was a great. So we have that Malana Mashanya, Ranang Narabara, Strinang Smarak Murtiman, Gopanam Swajanam, Virada Vidusham, Tattvam Param Yoginam, Vrishninam Paradeva Deti, and Rangam Gato Sagrajaha. Malana Ashani, that verse. Anyway, right? So you have the first one, so that with the ordinary people, they saw him differently according to their different status. And some people thought he was Nanang Narabara. The ordinary people thought, yeah, this is a pretty cool guy. This is a great hero. This is someone that we can, we'll go rah rah, we'll go jai jai. Nanang Narabara. So that's not too bad to think that he's a great man. Krishna was a great man. Chaitanya was a great man. Right? Even to think like that. Nranang Naravara. But still, that's not where we want to go. Strinang Smarach Murtiman. Women saw him as the Adonis, as the incarnation of beauty, as Cupid, the god of love. That's what they saw. Their minds were attracted to him with all the force of their womanly attraction. All the power of their fresh, young fertility. Hari Hari. And on it goes, right? Mrityur Mojamate. Virada Vidusha. Those who didn't know, they saw something strange, the unknown, the great universe, the unknown universe, the Virat, the great. And the yogis still saw the Param Tattva incarnate there. So they had a degree of knowledge. So they all saw him from different points of view. So there's nothing uncanny or unnatural about this. Krishna reveals himself to those who have activated his potency of self-revelation through a particular kind of devotion. And one of the aspects of that devotion is that their heart is pure. So now these people cannot see Krishna even when Krishna is present. That's the whole point. So the question is, how do some people have Krishna in front of them and not be transformed absolutely by that? But why do their sins not just simply go away? Well, now he's talking about that. Okay? So, now, so those examples were the ordinary men and women and gods and human beings who are living at the time of the incarnation, so they experienced him in a variety of ways. Naranranang, Naravara, Virat, Avidusham, Tattvam, Param, Yoginam. So there are different people looking at him in different ways. Right? And then, but they're not looking at him as the object of love. That's the point. And Yatacha Krishna Martyam Upasritya Ityadi Durvachaso Maho. So Mahendra, right? They're avagyatar. They're speaking ill. Now, are they vidveshis? Well, I'm not quite sure. There's more subjects than there are examples here, so I'm a little confused. But at any rate, this sounds to me like an avagyatar. That here Indra is talking about the way that Indra is talking about Krishna. So let's just see, I'll read the translation and then I'll read that verse again. So the above said impure-hearted people are of two types. Those who are averse to Bhagavan, Bahirmukha, and those who are full of spite towards him, Vidveshina. The Bahirmukhas are also of two types. Those who are absorbed in material sense objects, even after seeing Bhagavan, no effect. And those who disrespect him, Avagyatara. Their respective examples are the ordinary devas and human beings during the period of his avatara, so those who are absorbed in material objects. And King Indra and others who spoke harsh words such as, so this is the actual quote. It's a nice quote. This comes right at the beginning of the story. And it actually, there's another verse that's going to come up that's from the end part of the story. So, in a way, Jiva Goswami is making us remember the whole saga of Govardhan and Indra and all that business, right? So how did that start? Well, that started when Krishna did avagya, when Krishna insulted Indra. and the Gopas, Nanda Maharaj, and the rest of the Gopa community, they all insulted Indra by doing puja of Govardhan instead of doing Indra Yagya. What kind of lèse-majesté, what kind of thumbing his nose at the universal authorities is that? Right? So Indra did not take it lightly. That here these people have been offering me sacrifices. So other people, they don't offer sacrifices, let them be. But here you've been offering me sacrifices, now you have consigned yourself to me. You have given yourself to me. You are my bhaktas. I give you rain and you give me your offerings. You give me your symbolic offerings. You give me your fealty. You give me your loyalty. You are mine. I am a jealous God. So Indra said, you know, you are mine, so I'm going to punish you for doing this. You can't just get away with that. You are I'm not going to let my people go here. So the Gopas, these are my people, they've been offering, so Indra, so now Indra is actually some taken, because Indra and Upendra, yeah, there's a connection, Indra also, and in other places also, this Leela, so Krishna and Indra, there's some relationship between the two of them, right? Even Arjuna is the son of Indra, so there's the connection is with Indra. So, right, so the verse, Vachalam balishang stabdhang agyam panditamaninam krishnang martyam upasritya gopa me chakrur apriyam. So he says, so he's just saying nasty things about Krishna. Vachalam, the talkative, right? Blabbering, a small boy, but he's so has such a power of speech that he's able to convince his parents and all the senior cowherds to do his bidding. How old is the kid? He's 5, 6, 7 years old. I don't know. He's able to convince these people somehow or other. Vachalam, the power of speech. But it's also used in a negative way. But here, of course, this is Saraswati speaking through Indra also, and reminding us of the power of speech that this boy has. Just like in Christianity also, they like to say that the young boy answering all the wise questions to the Pharisees when he was only 12 years old. These are the signs of his genius, a child speaking words that could influence even adults. Vachalam and then Balisham. What's Balisham? Balisham, usually we take that to be childish, right? So he's just a child. And he thinks like a child. He doesn't have a realistic understanding. He doesn't understand the power of Indra. I'll show him the power of Indra. And I'll show these foolish people who listen to him that the power of Indra, that he thinks that he can contrary. Right? Stabdhan, foolish, brainless, stabdha. So when you're dumb, he's dumb, he's like a pillar. That's the stabdham that's getting kind of insulting here. Vachalam valisang stabdham. What else has he got here? Agyam, panditamaninam. Agyam, ignorant. Panditamaninam. He thinks he's so smart. This kid, right? So he's really getting it out on little Krishna there. Little Krishna is just, eating his lunch with the cowherd boys. So, what else does he say? Krishnang martyang upasritya gopa me chakrura priyam. But he doesn't go after Krishna. He says Krishnang martyam upasritya. So martyam calls him a human being. So Krishnang martyam. So there is a whole thing. Avajananti ma murha manushim tanumasrita. Right? Indra did the wrong thing here. He took Krishna as to be an ordinary man. Right? And so he is here, he's insulting not just Krishna, but he's insulting the cowherds also for being so foolish as to accept Krishna. So this is, of course, this is an ordinary argument, right? You're accepting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as God. You're accepting Amuk Goswami as a guru. Okay? These are major decisions, and we make these decisions sometimes without really thinking them through. In India, people take gurus more often than in the West. In the West, we're kind of suspicious of the whole concept. All right, so what else is going on? So this is the translation. So just see the great pride of the cowherd men, residents of the forest. They have disrespected me, a deva, having taken resort to Krishna, a mortal, a talkative and arrogant child who is ignorant but thinks he knows something. So that's so yata uktam shruti bihi. So as it was stated by the Shrutis, okay, so now we're going to another context here. So this is what's stated. This is again stating the thing about purity and seeing Krishna. Right? So dadati sakrit manas tvayi ya atmani nitya sukhe napunar upasati purusha sarharavasatan. Okay, so now this is really actually we're going into another subject, but this is going back. The question was that if you see Krishna, then you can't go back to material things. So that's what's the second one is an example of. So it's really giving the examples in reverse. Right? So dadati sakrin manas tvayi. So one who simply gives the mind to you once, sakrit. Ya atmani nitya sukhe, in you who are the eternal joy of the atma, of the self. Right? So we're getting this Vedantic language, the Shruti Stuti. So the Shruti Stuti in the 87th chapter of the 10th canto. So in this, these are very wonderful verses, really, in a way. And Sridhar Swami's, where Sridhar Swami has excelled in showing the meaning of the Bhagavatam. And he's also written his own original verses to show the extent to which he himself appreciates this particular extrapolation of Vedanta philosophy in the Shruti Stuti Vakya. And the Shruti Stuti is the chapter 87. So that's where this verse comes from. And here, and so in that chapter, the Vedantic language is being used, and the allusions to the Upanishadic passages that are a cause of concern in the Vedanta Sutra, and that these are spoken of in some way that orients us towards Vaishnava Tattva. Right. So here, dadati sakrin manas tvayi ya atmani nitya sukhe. So if one gives the mind even once towards you, O Supreme Truth, you who are atmani, you who are the self, the capital S self, who are the grand self, the self of the all selves, right? The nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam vidadhati kama, this one conscious being amongst all conscious beings, the Ishvara in yoga philosophy, the one who is the Guru Nam Guru. Okay, so what is it? It says Napunarupasate Purusha Saraharavasathan. Napunarupasate. So a person who has seen just once, or has placed the mind just once in you, who are the Supreme Self and eternal joy by nature, then to what will they turn? So they napunarupasate, they never give honor again to avasatan, to those circumstances that purusha sarahara, that steal away the essence of a human being. Purusha sarahara avasatan. So it's a very cruel and negative view of worldly life, that one has to sacrifice one's essential goodness in order to compete. And one is being challenged and tempted at every turn to succumb to the materialistic way of life. One is being enticed constantly by the material nature in one way or another to function in a way that is not one of total surrender to God. So here he says that if you actually saw Krishna, right? So if you just give your mind once to Krishna as the Supreme Self, then what to speak of someone who actually sees Krishna directly, right? Will he ever be able to give his mind back to ordinary things? Well, if he does give his mind back to ordinary things, then something has gone wrong. And where is the problem? Does the problem lie in Krishna, in the Vastu itself, that Krishna could not purify him? No, it's that this person didn't turn the on switch on, right? He didn't through bhakti, he did not activate the will of God to reveal himself, to bestow on that person the gift of the senses by which he can be perceived. So that's the Purusha Sarahara, stealing away the Sara, the essence of a man, the essence of a human being, the goal of human life. Why waste our time with sense gratification that is available in every lifetime, instead of looking for the real ultimate goal of human life, that which has been given to us for which reason we have been given this human form of life. The glorious human form of life and the glorious multifarious ways in which we reflect back the glory of God to Him. But how much more glorious is it when somebody actually reflects God through Sakshat Darshana, through actually having seen Him. So let's just go on, because that happens, that was the 87th chapter, so it is actually a short one. I don't know why, but today is going to be a shortish one. So Mahendrang Prati Sri Bhagavatacha, so this is the end part of the story, right? So we got the beginning part of the story where Mahendra is talking all very proudly. And now at the end of the story, so it's the concluding portion, so we want to see the beginning and end of that story. Here is the end of that story. So how it all ends up for Mahendra, right? And Krishna says to him, Mam Aishwarya Srimadantho Dandapaning na pashyati Tang Bhrangshayami Sampadbhyo Yasya Chechamyanugraham. It's a great verse. Mam Aishwarya Srimadantho. It's an easy verse also for those of people who are learning some Sanskrit, right? So Mam Aishwarya Sri Madantho. So that's the nominative case. So a person who Aishwarya Sri Mada Andha, who is blind from the intoxication of power and beauty, or power and wealth, or a combination. Aishwarya and Sri are standing for all those things that make a person powerful and attractive. So one who becomes intoxicated with that, with that power, or intoxicated with that beauty, becomes blind. And blindness here is napashyati. He does not see. So now this is a way of seeing Krishna again. So we're talking about seeing Krishna. So here Krishna says, he does not see me dandapaning. He does not see me as coming to him in the form of imminent punishment for his arrogance, for his evil, right? So one person is acting in an evil way. So because of his blindness due to some success, what do I need God for? What do I need to serve God for? Look at what I've done on my own, right? I got my PhD degree. I got my scholarship to Oxford, right? I got my multi-million-dollar industry, high-tech industry. So what need do I have of God? I've reached the state of all glorious power. I'm a God unto myself. Very easy to fall into thinking like that, instead of seeing things as being divine gifts. So here he's saying, Mahaprabhu Krishna is saying to Indra that a person who is blinded by power and by wealth and beauty, that such a person doesn't see me coming at him with a stick. He doesn't have that awareness that there's going to be repercussions for his action. Because an awareness of the repercussions of an action, that's human nature. So if you encode it in an external law, that's one thing. So I'm caught by the police and so I get punished. But in actual fact, it's an internalization that as a society, we don't accept murder, for instance. Right? So there's a grand social pressure not to commit murder. And a person who transgresses that has to be punished. But even a person who doesn't get punished in the human law is going to be punished by the cosmic law, and most often it's punishment that arises from an internalization of the sin, like Dorian Gray with the picture that's transformed. He becomes transformed by sin, by leading a life of sin, where his beautiful body permits him to carry on leading a particular lifestyle that ordinarily would not be allowed him as an ugly old man, who becomes loathsome. His personality, his attitude to the world, his naked use of power and of humanity as a pawn in his game, to see a genuine evil, right? So they don't see the consequences of their own action for their own personal self. In the past, we had religion said there's going to be hell. Well, you're going to have hell. Of course you're going to have hell. How can you not have hell? You're starting to have hell already. So, they don't see God coming in the form of punishment. That's the point. A person who is a devotee, he actually sees God present even in suffering. He sees present in punishment. He sees God in the presence in obstacles. He sees God's presence in challenges. He sees the face of God in wherever he turns his face. So whether the world imposes itself in a negative way or the world imposes itself in a positive way, in either way it's God's face. So he says, a person blinded with the pride of power does not see me, who am the wielder of the rod of chastisement. When I wish to bless a person, so this is the second part of the verse, when I wish to bless a person, I make him lose his wealth. So the word here, he says a sampadbyo. So we've seen this word sampatti before. So sampadbyo here, in material sense, his possessions. So I will brangshayami, I will separate him from his possessions, and then see where he gets. Right? If I want to be kind to someone, I take away what he's got. Right? So he realizes that he doesn't really own anything. I'm being kind to him. He doesn't really own a damn thing in this world. That I'm showing him the truth. So here's the naked truth. I'm being kind to you. It doesn't feel like kindness. But that's the game that's being played with everybody who is going through the cycle of birth and old age and disease and death. A constant flow of loss, of gain and loss and gain and loss and ultimately loss. All right, so let's see. I'll make him lose his wealth. Then you see how far you get. So a part of this commentary, I'm just going to read through it. Parts of it have to be moved around. And so some of it went with the previous commentary and some of it's going with the next commentary. And only part of this will remain as the commentary for this section. Right? So the subject here was these different kinds of attitudes towards God, which are not helpful. So there's a little bit of still a little bit of disorganization in the material here, so I'm not fully satisfied with the commentary here, but I'm going to just read the commentary through and leave it. Earlier it was said that mukti in the form of realization of the Supreme Tattva is the highest goal of life. Tad evang parama tattva sakshatkar atmakasya tasya mokshasya parama purushartatve stite. So that was the starting point. Right? The purushartha is what? It was mukti, is the parama purushartha. So what's the nature of mukti? Well, the nature of mukti is to see the parama tattva directly, sakshatkar. So in this statement, mukti has been equated to having a vision of Bhagavan. If everyone could see Bhagavan during his avatara on earth, then they should all get mukti. All right, so this is the Purva Paksha. So I think let me see if I get the language changed in the other. Okay, well, there's quite a bit here. Most of this goes with the previous day's commentary, and I think I might even have read it before. So I'm going to go through it a bit quickly. So earlier it was said that mukti in the form of realization of the Supreme Tattva is the highest goal of life. That was stated in 1.7. So mukti was thus equated to having a vision of Bhagavan. If everyone could see Bhagavan during his avatara on earth, then they should all have gotten liberation. But that was not the case. So Sri Jiva Goswami writes that nevertheless, the definition of mukti given in verse 2.10.6, right? So we've seen this one. Mukti hitvanyata rupam Swarupena vyavastitihi. So now this is being given as a basic definition. So is this definition adequate or inadequate? So from this example, it would appear that it was inadequate. If mukti hitvanyata rupang swarupena vyavastitihi, if this is the definition, that one has rejected all other forms and is only situated in one's own swarup as a devotee of Krishna, that if this is the fact, then how can it be that some did not get liberation from seeing Krishna? In other words, they didn't get this mukti. They didn't situate themselves in their swarupa with Krishna, and they didn't give up their anyata arupam, like we were just talking about this. The ordinary people, they're still thinking of themselves in terms of their human identity, in terms of their worldly identity, in terms of their worldly duties, and so on. So why didn't they get liberation? So why is it not true that this is liberation? Well, so Jiva Goswami writes that the definition holds true because the vision of unqualified people is not real vision. Okay, so I'm not sure if we got into it in any great detail, but in the previous, one of the previous anucheds, right, in this seventh anuched, one of the subdivisions of this anuched, we were talking about that also, right? The idea that whether Shishupal saw Krishna or not, right? Whether they actually get a chance to see Krishna, or whether they're seeing because they haven't got the power to see it. What they see is something that resembles Krishna, but is not the real Krishna, right? They're not seeing the real thing there. They're seeing a facsimile of the thing. So it's a sakshatkar abhas. So, because the vision of unqualified people is not real vision, and thus they do not become free of their conditioning. This was supported by the prose text cited from the Vishnu Purana about Shishupala. Although Shishupala saw Krishna numerous times, he did not see him with the eyes of devotion. For only those whose eyes are treated with the salve of love can see the Lord's form at all times. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. And so they have the love, the salve of love, their eyes have the ability to see. But the eyes that haven't been transformed by grace and by purity of heart, those things will never reveal God, inside or outside. So Shishupala was full of hatred and envy, and thus could not recognize Krishna's greatness. It was only when Krishna hurled his disc at him that he was purged of his hatred and could see the real Krishna. That is why Krishna's disc is called Sudarshana, that which gives one a proper vision of Krishna. So those who have a clean heart and have not offended a devotee by physically hitting him, criticizing him, hating him, being angry towards him, being displeased on meeting him, and not greeting him or her, become free from distress as soon as they see them. Okay, they become free of distress as soon as they see Bhagavan. Right? So if you haven't committed any of those offenses, then you see Bhagavan. Yeah. So that's the impediment to seeing Bhagavan. So just think about that for a second. If you haven't seen the devotee, then you haven't seen, there's no chance that you'll ever see Bhagavan. If you haven't recognized the presence of Bhagavan in the devotee, then there's no way that you're going to recognize Bhagavan. What is the problem of understanding this? Seeing Bhagavan in the devotee just means that the devotee is full of Bhagavan. So when you look at him, you end up thinking of Bhagavan, that's all. It means that he clicks your brain into Bhagavan mode. So if you haven't been able to get that kind of an insight into God consciousness, it's very difficult to get it on your own through theorizing about it. So, so for them, so these people, even if they've committed some sin, right, which is an impediment to seeing God, in this particular case, they become free of distress as soon as they see him, because they didn't commit an offense to a devotee. But for others who have committed offenses, they also benefit as their distress begins to reduce, even though it might take some time before the offenses are fully removed, right? So you're not in a position where you can see, but you begin the path somehow or another. You interact, even if you commit some offense, that means that you're entering into some interaction with it. And so that interaction with it can have some activation, it can have some result. That was the whole point of the Shishupala story. That even if thinking of God in a negative way ultimately is going to be beneficial somehow or other. All right, so Sri Jiva Goswami divides those who lack the qualifications to see Bhagavan into two groups. Those who are indifferent to him and those who are actually inimical. The Vahirmukhas are further divided into two categories. So altogether there are four kinds of individuals lacking the qualification to see Krishna. So I'm having difficulty with this classification here, so I'm going to have to think about it a little bit more. But anyway, for the moment, this is Babaji's classification. And he doesn't say Bahirmukh, he says that, well, yes, the Bahirmukh, that's what the Sanskrit says. But he takes it that they're both categories are divided into two. So that both of these kinds are, but I would think that the one was, well, at any rate, so these are four kinds of people. Let's just look at them. And we'll continue to try to understand what it does mean. So those who maintain material attachments after seeing him, so we've talked about that. Those who show him disrespect, so we talked about that, that was Indra. Those who recognize Bhagavan's beauty and other such qualities, but still cannot know his sweetness. Right? So they know him to some extent, but not sufficiently to understand his most intimate nature, his madhurya. Right? So in other words, this is a hierarchy within the Bhagavad Tattva. And then those who see Bhagavan in a deformed manner. So those who see Bhagavan in a deformed manner, those of course are the ones who see everything opposite. So we talked about that before also. That you see, although Krishna is the most merciful, they see one as the one who is, they blame him for the suffering he causes instead of thanking him for the pleasure he brings. That kind of thing. So this is the outcome of offenses to devotees. So in this list, those that come later are more offensive than those that precede. The intensity of the offense determines the level of their averseness or hatred. The examples for each one of them are common people, Indra when the Indra Yagya was stopped, Kala Yavana, and the wrestlers of Mathura respectively. All right, so I didn't, that last bit, that wasn't in the text, and so we have to start thinking about that again, that how the wrestlers in Kali Yavana, these examples were not given. So I'm just going to leave it there for today. We'll go on with 7.6 in the next class. Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe, Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam.